I tend to say a lot of crazy things, and one of the most controversial statements I have parroted recently to my friends and guildmates is that the best MMOs today are not even MMOs. Now, I know right off the bat this sounds like the crazy rantings of a 30-year-old washed-up has-been, and while this is entirely accurate, I still think there is something behind this statement. In my opinion, there are three main pillars that really made us fall in love with the MMO genre in the first place. This was their social and community-driven aspects, large, unexplored, vast, and open worlds, as well as their ability to create tough, engaging, and competitive gameplay that really could only be accomplished with the right group of people. Now, when I first got into MMOs, I was a young teenager. We did not have instant messengers, Discord, Facebook, MySpace, or even cell phones at this time. We had to walk uphill both ways just to even get online at home. MMOs were one of the earliest forms of online social interaction, to the point that they almost felt like social networks first, and games second. We would develop friendships, make plans, and occasionally even group up to conquer the most recent dungeon. Every day at the end of school, my friends and I would sit around while waiting to be picked up and ask each other the infamous question of, when will you be online? If it wasn't for these earliest forms of MMOs, my communication with my friends would have ended after school. But instead, we would go home, group up, and discuss the latest gossip at school, all while slaying orcs, dragons, and other mystical and fantastical creatures. The MMO industry would forever change with new, much broader social applications. These developments would change the MMO landscape, and the industry as a whole would recognize that they no longer needed to implement social functionality into their games, saving precious hours of development time and outsourcing to the likes of Ventrilo, TeamSpeak, and most commonly today, Discord. We are no longer locked to a single game and can continue our social interactions outside of the game, carrying over into other games we may want to play out with our friends. Over time, the worlds we would explore would change too. No longer were there large stretches of uninhabited land. The sprawling continents and worlds would begin to be replaced by small, perfected, and linear maps, consolidated and perfected landscapes. We went from a choose-your-own-adventure book to a fast-paced, linear comic that, once completed, would no longer offer any resources or motivation to return to, further separating the player base. The last issue I see with many of these cookie-cutter, linear MMOs we see today, whether it's from a fear of walking off the beaten path or losing players or money, most importantly, to a high difficulty, is the lack of competition within the games themselves. Sure, you can see the top 0.01% of guilds competing in high-level gameplay, but there is little to any competition amongst the average players. The closest thing we see is fighting for DPS on the damage meters and acquiring a top parse, but it's no longer guilds competing against each other. In most MMOs, you can level to max level in a few hours. Why do we even have levels at this point? Should we just replace them with item level or gear score? I hope not. In my opinion, I don't think that the issue is that the MMORPG genre is dying, but to be more accurate, it's changing. An MMORPG is no longer a genre itself and shifting into its own subgenre. You can have an FPS MMO, an RPG MMO, or in my opinion, the genre that most closely replicates the original heart and charm that we all fell in love with so many years ago, the survival MMO. Very recently, a new genre of game emerged into the market, simply titled survival games. These games would create strong server identities, player identities, massive amounts of social interaction between your team and your enemies, large warfare even occurring between the two, crafting, base building, farming, while also having bosses and tough PvE enemies, and so much more. And these games, when brought to a large, massive audience, would replicate the feeling that we had in those initial Ultima Onlines, EverQuest, and other similar hardcore MMORPG projects from our past. In my opinion, the survival genre would become the hot zone for what we love from the more old school MMOs. Some more experimental devs would begin to recognize this and would see the market shift with games like Fractured Online and New World, taking a more open world survival gameplay into their MMO. These games would grow strong player bases of loyal fans. Your average Ark player has over 4,000 hours, while games like Lost Ark struggle to keep players engaged for longer than a month. Before I finish the video, I want to circle back and summarize my whole point in this video. I don't think MMORPGs are dead. I think arguably they're at their highest point ever. And in the same way that your favorite FPS or sports game started implementing RPG elements into them in the last decade, turning the RPG into more of a subgenre, I think this is the future of MMOs as well. As always, I understand that the MMORPG player base is a large and broad group of people with massively varying views on the genre as a whole. And I'd be an absolute fool to think that my thoughts are the only thoughts available. So at the end of the day, I'm really just curious what you guys think. Is the MMORPG in its purest form kind of gone? Are the MMOs of modern day just not even MMORPGs anymore? What kind of games do you think would even qualify as an MMORPG in modern gaming landscape? Make sure to tell me down in the comments below. As always, I am currently live on Twitch right now. Links are in the description. Come hang out, tell me how much of an idiot I am and how wrong I am about MMOs in general, and let's just discuss games and play them together as well. Hit that like and subscribe button, follow me on my various social medias, and as always, my name is Spun, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace. Oh, and before I go, make sure you check out this video. Also this video over here. This one's pretty good as well. I like this video. I might like the other video more, but I don't know. You help me decide. I'm not sure. Is this video the one? How about this video? I think that, just hit the subscribe button.